can never outperform your self-image, your true deep down beliefs that are inscripted in the marrow of your bone about who you are. It doesn't matter how high you climb past that. That is the trough. That is where you will eventually rest. You will always rest at the focal point of what you believe yourself to be, deep down. There's no escape from it. There's no escape from it. You could make 200 billion. You could be the greatest fighter in the world. You could be the most respected architect known to mankind. You will find a way, just like that game Snakes and Ladders, which is a very apropos metaphor for life. You will find a way to drop down that slide and go right back to what your genetic code tells you to be. There's no escape from it. And any escape from it is temporary. And this explains the extremes and the highs and lows in life. It explains it perfectly. The highest of highs is a temporary euphoria because you just know the come down, you're going to go back to baseline eventually. And the lows are no different. The lows are temporary too. Because eventually you'll climb a ladder and you'll find that resting point, that Archimedes lever. And that's where you'll usually be chilling. And there's one single hack around this. One life hack. One. There's only one. And it's the Tate method. It's the Tate method. And quite frankly, it's the Hormozi method of building a persona that is so overpowering that you literally cannot rest or take your eye off the curation of that mythological persona, because you're just going to slide all the way back to baseline. You know, I have a theory that if I sat down with a lot of these very powerful figures in some fucking wood-paneled cigar lounge and smoked a cigar with like a Tate or any of these guys, any of these fucking big media influencers, I've always asked myself, do I think I could get them to drop the veil? Like at 2:00 in the morning, if we were shooting the shit on a balcony somewhere, do I think I could get them to take off the mask for a second and fucking joke with me about like the game that they've played? And I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is 100% yes. And I think that's why you see a lot of these very powerful profiles. They cannot escape the world that they created for themselves because there's going to be an identity leak. You guys understand what I'm saying? There's going to be a severe identity leak. They know that they have to become a massive fucking control freak, and they have to be very careful with who they associate with now, because that mask can slip very fast and very easily. Like sometimes I look at some of these fucking bishops or fucking pastors, or like let's use a fucking hypothetical example of someone who claims that they're in direct commune with Jesus Christ, right? Some guy gets up on a pulpit and he tells you that he's actually channeling dictation from Jesus himself. And it's effective. Let's say he's running a fucking mega church and people are tithing and people are donating, people are fucking flowing massive money through this slush fund, right? But this guy's obviously a fucking con artist. And he's got everybody on the hook thinking that he can fucking commune with Jesus Christ himself, right? I always wonder if guys that pull this shit off, like, do they have a confidant that they actually laugh with at fucking 2:00 in the morning when they're fucking drinking or smoking weed, and they're like, these dumb motherfuckers don't even understand the ruse that I'm pulling on them. And I think the answer is no, because here's how powerful these personas are. These people that grasp this vast amount of influence. What you have to understand is that their job, they don't they're not trying to convince you of anything. That's the opposite mentality. Midwits, average people, losers always take the approach of, I have to convince other people of what I am. And it's literally the exact opposite. These people have spent their entire lives convincing themselves. They've convinced themselves that what they're doing is so real that it actually becomes real. That's the whole game as a man, by the way. Because as a man, ultimately, you do have to pick a persona. You have to choose. I've said this before and I stand by it. As a man, you have to pick up some kind of weapon and you have to pick up a mask and you have to pick up some armor. And these are the stories that you tell yourself. Tate never had to convince you of anything. He only had to convince himself. And then by osmosis, everybody buys in. You guys understand? It's the OJ syndrome. You have to understand this mechanism is so powerful in men. Men can actually begrudge themselves and submit themselves emotionally through this type of mental domination that it actually becomes true for them. We talk about creating reality. I don't think there's ever been a time that OJ Simpson snickered in like a back room and acknowledged the fact that he killed Nicole. I don't think that's true. I think OJ to this day truly feels like he was falsely persecuted. I think deep down he feels like there was an immense injustice that he had to go on trial. And I think he truly, truly believes in his core of cores that he didn't do it. That's how fucking powerful delusion can be. That's how fucking powerful. And Hormozy's pretty much done the same thing, which is why he ain't going back, because he doesn't want the veil to slip. Because here's what happens, okay? You get some of these big time performers that are phenomenal on camera that can fucking serenade a fucking room. Here's the deal. If they let the veil slip off and joke or jostle with someone and they're laughing about how their persona has captured the hearts and minds of the world, the performance will then suffer going forth, because that's how tightly interconnected those mechanisms are. If Tate went to a back room and laughed at all of you with his brother behind a private wooden door and said, ha ha ha, I fucking totally bamboozled these motherfuckers. These guys don't understand. I'm just an average, regular guy. His performance would shatter instantly. Instantly, it'd be over. It'd be over because that molecule, that tiny modicum of acknowledgement in his own mind, that he just verbally acknowledged that, would absolutely decimate his ability to perform in the future. These people, all of them, in their evolution, the delusions that they have become reality. Delusion is simply the gateway to reality. And it's really the only definition between a loser and a winner. A loser is basically just someone who couldn't make their delusion reality. Do you understand? Because all men start every endeavor very delusional. And a loser is just unable to bring it to life. And a winner makes the delusion real. So the crazy thing is, and the most interesting part about this is, if someone DM'd me and they were like, you know how Tate bashed crying? They were like, do you think Tate actually has like cried behind closed doors? Like, do you think this is all bullshit, him trying to be like tough guy Rambo? And do you think he's actually fucking shedding fucking crocodile tears off camera? And I said, fuck no. And he said, why? And I said, because these people, these types of personalities are extremely disgusted by their own weakness. It's not for you. They don't cry because they're embarrassed if you saw them cry. They don't cry because it would change the way they look at themselves. That is a massive distinction. They don't show weakness behind closed doors when nobody's around because they couldn't bear to stand in their own filth. Do you understand? So behind closed doors, these guys end up being the same exact way they are on camera. It's a 24-hour performance. The lights never go off because they literally cannot bring themselves to acknowledge their humanity. It's the extraterrestrialization of man. They extraterrestrialize themselves. They make themselves alien. You could use this as sort of like an adjunct to Nietzsche's philosophy of the Übermensch. It's in a very similar vein. It's under a similar umbrella. The male psyche is unbelievable in its power. And a lot of these journeys to success, to the highest peaks, to the highest of the highs, where men get the most accolades and laudation, requires boatloads of self-denial. Self-denial. Self-denial can be extremely powerful. Denying your weaknesses and blocking them out and pretending they don't exist and going all in on your strengths. That is a motherfucker of a pulley system. It'll take a man very far. There's a lot of times in life where it's very impractical to want to understand your flaws or your weaknesses. It's just extremely fucking impractical. You never have to even touch those domains. And what's funny is when you turn a blind eye and you snub and you turn your cheek at your own deficits, that's when the actual real self-improvement begins. Everything is fucking paradoxical. The more that you hone in and do the fucking deep work, going in the fucking, the treacherous fucking Thonian catacombs of your unconscious mind, trying to pick apart your history and understand your life story and why you think the way you do and why you behave the way you do. That is the gateway to absolute self-annihilation and self-destruction. Because as we've discussed, these mechanisms in play, the bad habits, the good habits, they're synergistic. They're extremely synergistic. And when you start fucking with these things and you start fucking removing flaws and fucking trying to get rid of bad habits, you don't know what good habits you're vitiating right alongside it. That's the problem. That's the biggest problem, is you're tampering with the entire system itself. You're contaminating it. And so all these guys, you know, like my biggest critique of all this Hormozy bashing is that this is a guy who's just leaning into his edge. And when people lean into their edge, it makes the world horrifically uncomfortable. To see a guy actually wielding their power just makes everybody fucking recoil. Because everybody wishes they could do it. Everybody wishes they had a fucking edge that fucking razor sharp. Everybody does.